Protecting London is the fascinating responsibility of a huge network of people. And because the city never stands still, it's a complex job which is constantly evolving. But how do safety and security measures compare in concert halls and construction sites? What's the difference between facilities management in an 18th century Grade 1 listed museum and a 21st century smart office? And how do all of these people come together to keep many of the world's best of landmarks safe and secure? To answer these questions, Protection and Management, which is the world's leading event series taking place this June, covering security, fire, safety and facilities, has gone on a behind-the-scenes tour of landmarks across the capital to reveal how they operate on a day-to-day basis. For episode 3, we head to Europe's largest construction project, Crossrail. The high-frequency, high-capacity railway project employs over 10,000 workers across 40 sites, and it's on course to deliver 42 kilometres of new rail tunnels under the busy streets of London. In this exclusive interview, Stephen Remmell Coleman, who is Watch Manager B and Transport Liaison Officer with the London Fire Brigade, tells us all about fire safety on Crossrail sites. Watch the whole clip or select your favourite chapters.
My name is Stephen Remmell Coleman. I'm a London firefighter with the London Fire Brigade, and I'm a watch manager seconded to the Crossrail project. I do fire assurance assessments at all the different sites in the London-wide area that Crossrail is covering. My role itself is created specifically for the fire mitigation side of things from the London Fire Brigade's eyes. So I feed back directly to the brigade and the relevant station managers, who then send out crews to take a look at the individual sites. For lack of a better word, I'm the one-stop shop for all things brigade. So anything that needs to come through to us, for example, anything to do with our fire safety legislation team, they'd get onto me and I'd get onto our fire safety legislation team, and then I'd arrange a meeting between the two parties. So yeah, we get a lot of issues coming up, and it's just my role to facilitate those two teams meeting. When it comes to safety and security, my police opposite, she sits right next to me. So if there's anything that comes up in our incidents that warrants her attention, I'll let her know, and vice versa, and we action it appropriately. It's a 3-stage construction project. You have the stage where they basically just dig a series of holes and tunnels underground. You have the MEP stage, which I mentioned earlier, where they have mechanical and electrical planning stage. And then you have stage 3, which is the testing of the actual running rail. And for us, like I said, stage 2 is the most risky stage of the procedure, because that's where you have all the fire loading and flammable materials, even though they try to mitigate as much as possible. When I first started doing the fire assurance assessments, I found that whenever we'd be looking at the hacky stairs, the temporary stairs that they use up and down the shafts, they weren't sure whether or not the working at height netting that they put around there was fire rated. And for me, that was a big no-no, because that's your main port of access egress. So since that first report came out, the rest of the sites caught wind of that, and it was put out through the relevant channels. And now all the fire-rated netting on all the hacky stairs across the project is fire-rated. Well, when I go and do these assessments, the second I walk onto site, you get a flavour for what sort of things you're going to expect, because you'll look at the signage, you look at their muster points, and with their muster points, one thing that I've found is they call their muster points, some of them call them RVPs, which I've been trying to educate them into not doing, because RVPs for the blue light services, that's the ambulance, police and fire brigade, that's where we keep all our resources. So if they're telling all their people that you need to get out in an emergency and you need to go to this quote-unquote RVP, and that's where we're turning up to, we don't want our appliances and their employees meeting up in the same place for obvious health and safety reasons. But when I go to site, the things I'm looking for is the basics. We want to look for access egress. We're looking for firefighting water that we can use to safely put out a fire, and we're looking for communications. Now, communications is a big one for us as well, because that's where we have our dedicated subsurface working channels. We want to make sure that they've got these communications in place as early as possible. As part of my fire assurance assessments, I also talk to their fire wardens, and I ask them to just tell me, and I find out from them what they believe their roles are. And sometimes there's a bit of discrepancy between what their roles are and what actually happens on site. Most fire wardens, generically, in the event of an incident, they go from floor to floor, making sure they clear out all the people, prioritising people who are immobile or sight and hearing impaired, and they'd make sure that everyone's out, get a register, and that register we passed on to the London Fire Brigade incident commander, who'd be able to check off a list and see whether or not there's anyone left in there, and that would inform on our plan. Now, some fire wardens have also been given the added role of making sure that the extinguishers are within test date. Stepping Up Week is a Crossrail initiative where 1 week in the year they really drive home health and fire safety. And what they do, they've asked me to go down to various sites and give presentations for people that want to know more about fire, what my role is, and how we can help as a whole in health and safety. And they have their 5 golden rules that Crossrail has set out that all the companies are supposed to adhere to. And when I go down to site, I also like to tell stories of when I've been on incidents and how basic fire safety and health and safety rules that haven't been followed led to these incidents happening. And when I tell these stories, it really hits home to these people, and they say that they can communicate the information that I'm giving to them better through these stories that I tell, rather than having a PowerPoint presentation given to them, sort of thing. So it really does work. Stepping Up Week really does heighten the people's awareness of health and safety. When I first joined the fire brigade, I was stationed at Wimbledon Fire Station, and we had a call out to a person collapsed against a wall. It turns out that after the investigation had been done, this person had been rushing. They'd got there early. They'd been rushing, trying to do what they needed to do as quick as possible so they could get home. Now, if they'd have taken that time, followed the golden rules as well, which is one of them being respect the basics, and just put in all the safety measures that they need to put in, they'd still be alive today. So that's one story that I try to drive home. So instead of thinking, I could get home 20, 25, 30 minutes early by doing X, Y, and Z and taking shortcuts on health and safety, let me just take my time, do things the right way so I can get home to my family. There's a system at Crossrail called Revo where they look at all incidents, all accidents that happen, and it's recorded in Revo, even their near misses. And I look at obviously the fire safety side of things, and I saw a trend in accidents or small fires happening in their designated smoking areas. What we found was because they had their metal bins next to their domestic bins, people were putting their cigarettes in the domestic bins, having a drink, and you put the plastic cups in there and you'd have a small fire in there. You want to try and change their mentality from the smallest outset so that they don't take that down into the tunnels and have accidents and bigger incidents down there. So if we can stop it and mitigate it at that level, then we've done a good job. Luckily, and I'd like to say it's because of the collaborative work between Crossrail and the London Fire Brigade, there haven't been any major fires in the tunnelling area. And I think that's because of our proactive approach to health and safety and making sure that everything we can mitigate, we do. And where they have involved the brigade in the design stage, they've used the best fire retardant materials. So every stage of health and fire safety that they could that the brigade and Crossrail could mitigate and work together in mitigation that they've done. And I think that's been reflected in the small amount and small size of fires.